Hello and welcome back to a new build video. This is for Path of Exile 2 Last of the Druids League, and I have re-rolled, since ripping on my last character, a Druid. And the whole idea behind this build was I wanted to see if I could make Apocalypse, which is the skill from the Shaman Ascendancy I hear, actually do anything and be good. I hadn't seen a lot of people talking about this, so I kind of just wanted to go through it myself. And the TLDR is this just melts like everything. There's a couple of really good interactions that occur with Apocalypse. First off, how does Apocalypse work? You just hit things with elemental damage. You can do pretty much just any skill. It builds up glory pretty fast. It's actually not that arduous like most other glory skills, mainly because the condition is so easy. Just do an elemental hit. So I have Thunderstorm, and I go here, and it just goes zap, 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 zap. It's packs of enemies, rares, uniques a bunch of times repeatedly, and you just build up glory nearly instantly. Against uniques, it's super fast. Against like loose packs, it may take a couple seconds, but then once it's on for like 40 seconds. And once it's on, it's just gonna rain down meteors, hailstorms, just everything around you just starts getting hit with things. So, kind of like pseudo autobomber build, you just build up the charges, you turn it on, and then it just goes. The reasons why this is actually working. So, for the first using this skill, it doesn't seem that great, like out of the box. Like, if you grab this, you're level 40 druid, you turn this on, and you have, 3 support gems in it and like some crappy campaign gear. It doesn't really do too much. I mean, it does something, but it is not like your main damaging skill. Like, you'll need to be doing probably other things as well, and it will maybe help you out, give you a bit more damage during a boss fight or something. But come level, what is it, like 58, 55, you're in the interludes, you get your tier 14 spirit gem, and you can get Archmage. Now the reason why Archmage is so nice for this is you can turn Archmage on just one weapon set. So I have the entire build built out where the only things I do on weapon set 2 is cast Apocalypse. And then I can run around in a map and spend 99% of my time in weapon set 1, which is built towards being incredibly tanky. And I still have pretty much maximal damage output, because Apocalypse is still running. Which means we can also fully benefit from Archmage without the downside. Like, the extra mana cost doesn't even matter. The cost on Apocalypse is like pretty tiny. It's like 300 mana. I spend once every 40-45 seconds, right? And then it just runs and blows everything up. So you can benefit 100% from Archmage without any of the extra costs. You don't need any mana management. Because I don't really use mana, I'm actually running Mind Over Matter. I'm running Mind Over Matter and Chaos Inoculation. So I have 9,500 shield, I have 1,000 mana, and I can overflow mana because of my remnants. So I can get another like 600 mana, and that is all health, essentially. So I am super tanky. On top of that, I don't need spell skills on my primary weapon set. I can, it's helpful because it gives you a little bit more clearing power with Thunderstorm, but I can just invest in having a Swallow. So I just have one of the best defensive shields in the game, and with a very minor hit to my clearing speed, and like no hit to my boss killing potential. So you can go into a boss fight, set up all your things. Like, I go into a boss fight and you just go boom, 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 Apocalypse, and then I just run around holding block for 10 seconds. And most bosses don't land for 10 seconds. Like, they just melt. On top of this, we have another really good synergizing piece. Again, comes into play right around that level kind of 55, beginning of endgame, end of interludes point. And that's using the fact that Apocalypse is a lightning cold fire skill, which means we can use Sun Splitter. And this is just absolutely nutty for this skill in particular, because it gives you +6 to your level of your Apocalypse. And that is not depending on which thing it is doing. Because it is plus to the skill, even though the meteor is the fire portion of the skill, is coming from Apocalypse, and Apocalypse's level is going up. So, like, I have a 300,000 base damage meteor. And that's before I shred their resistances and apply shock, which I have 100% shock chance with my Thunderstorm. So it's easily doing 500,000 against weaker mobs, easily 1,000,000 damage per meteor you drop. So the damage this outputs is absolutely absurd because of this interaction. Some things to watch out for. If you start using Apocalypse, you're gonna go and you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna put some things in Apocalypse. And like, oh, considered casting. That seems good. I only cast the skill once every 40 seconds. I don't need cast speed. This is really good damage. This doesn't work. It just straight up doesn't work. It's recommended for it, it does not work. The reason for this, I think, is, I mean, it makes sense when you start thinking about it. It's silly that it's recommended. But the skill you're casting with Apocalypse is just the thing that turns on your Apocalypse. It's just giving you the status effect, I have Apocalypse going on. Then the damage from Apocalypse is coming from triggered abilities that happen during your Apocalypse. So these are all triggered spells, which means considered casting does nothing. Likewise, expand. You might think, hey, I only cast this every 40 seconds. I'd like to have 90% increased area of effect. Does not work. It only works on skills that you cast yourself. Cannot do anything with your channeling it or triggering it. Similarly, also Ambrosia. Seems like a really good fit. Does not work because it is a triggered ability. And on top of that, where is it? Here. I don't even know if you'd want to use Wild Surge Incantation because the quality of life of only having to use it once every 40 seconds is probably nice, but I don't know, maybe if you want to like burst Arbiter really quickly or something, you turn this on. It doesn't work. It actually doesn't even have a downside, which it seems like, because it is a storm skill, it has the storm tag up there, you can see it there. It seems like it should at least reduce the duration, because the Apocalypse is a storm, but it doesn't even do that, so it just doesn't even affect Apocalypse. Likewise, for my setup, I'm using Thunderstorm for clearing with shock conduction. Lots of people are doing this because it's crazy. It's 100% shock chance. And then actually the damage is coming from coursing current and static shocks triggering every single hit, because every single hit shocks, so every single hit triggers a coursing current and a static shock. Again, since these are triggers off of the Thunderstorm, if I turn on Wild Surge Incantation, it will affect my Thunderstorm damage and it will reduce its duration, but that's only a tiny, tiny part of the actual damage. There's only little tiny hits. Most of my hit damage is coming from these triggers, so Wild Surge Incantation does nothing. How is the build laid out? You just start from Druid and you pretty much pass straight up to Chaos Inoculation. This is a really natural fit for the build because we are doing all triggered spells. So these nodes here are some of the best nodes you can get. Likewise, this plus cold skills, I only have it on my weapon swap too, because it only affects my Apocalypse, but that affects Apocalypse, because it is fire, cold, lightning, so you can do every type. What else do we have? On the weapon swap, I also have all my skill duration for Apocalypse. I don't really think you need it for Thunderstorm, because it's really just to help you clear, and you don't really have anything else to be doing. It already has plenty of duration anyway. I'm like not reducing it anyway, so duration's already still like 8 seconds. Yeah, it's still 8 seconds, which is like plenty. I guess that is on the weapon swap. Oh yeah, so it is actually less. Nope, it's 8 seconds. Okay, so even with overabundance, it's still 8 seconds. What else do we have going on? We're pretty much rolling full energy shield gear. I think you could put in some armor, because we have us fallen. It's mainly just a matter of having really good armor gear. It's way easier to get okay-ish energy shield gear. But for armor gear, you'd really want like the armor, and then the armor, and then on the backside you want the armor applying to elemental. And only when you get all of that together does it begin to even make sense. And even then, like, maybe it's good, but then even then you don't, for the boot you don't want to, because if you start going armor route, you probably want to use full energy shield and use this. Anyway, that's pretty much the build. On the back half we had stapled together. This is like ball lightning warp. This is what I was using before hitting endgame, and it's nice if I ever get backed into a corner and I can help out. Oh, I have the wrong weapon tool. It's nice if you're backed into a corner, or if you just like aren't building up your glory fast enough. Often ball lightning to build up your charge faster. And also on the front half, we have mana remnants in mana overflow, and just to help sustain any mana cost we have, so we're always topped off in case we do get that big one-shot hit. And then bark skin, which gives us a buttload of armor, which is another reason why you kind of don't even need to build armor. Why would you build armor when energy shield, once you get hit, turns into armor? So like, if you get hit for like a bunch of guys, like 6 guys come up and hit you, and the first 3 hit you and take out 3,000 of your shields, suddenly you have 3,000 armor. Well, not that much. You'd have half that. An extra 1,050 armor, but I have 100% increased armor built in because I have all these hybrid nodes. So that is actually 3,000 armor anyway. So you don't really even need to build the armor, and you still benefit as if you had armor. On top of that, we have, for defensive players, we have the adaptations, which are crazy good. We have the adaptations, so you just have 10% less elemental damage taken straight off the bat. You get adaptations, and when they do occur, they give you an extra, well, it's 10% base, but then it's doubled. So it's 20%, but they only last for 5 seconds, so they're not consistent. I think there is probably, in the pinnacle of this build, you probably start self-damaging yourself so that you always have those adaptations up, and then you can probably tank Arbiter, I think. Because the other nice thing about this is this doesn't even worry about penetration, which is a big issue with max resistance. Like if you're doing Smith of Kataba, the old Smith of Kataba, and you'd have like 90 resistance, you get penetration, and suddenly your 90 resistance is no longer good, but this is just less damage taken. And on top of that, it gives us physical. We have physical mitigation, because we have physical turning into elemental, which, because of our resistances and our adaptations, will be pretty much mitigated to almost nothing. And then on the chest piece, I just finished crafting this. Pretty much other than this, until I have this chest piece and this headgear, like, the big things to focus on early is get your Sun Splitter, get a +3 spell skills amulet. Doesn't really matter if there's anything on it, because you can then just start slamming, like, you want this is the Kurgle prefix, and you want the Perfect Essence of Enhancement, and that gives you all the defenses. I lucked out and had one that had actual other okay stats on the other one, but pretty much you can just buy the cheapest +3 spell skill amulet you can find, as long as it's not corrupted and desecrated, and then you just can force it to have these 2 modifiers on them because of the way the desecrations and perfect essences work. And then similarly, you just want like a +5 elemental For me, I want lightning because I'm using thunderstorm. Theoretically, you could have two different wands. You could have one specifically tailored to apocalypse, but I don't have money for that yet. But anyway, as I was saying, this is my first, so like, I guess, back to the original point. To get this build up and running, you kind of need, this is like a divine, this is like a divine, this is like a divine, it's like 3 divine. And even these, like, you don't really need these 2 pieces, these just push you over the top. That's like your first 3 divines, probably want to go into these 3 items. And then from there, and just have whatever best energy shield gear you can have. And then the big piece, this one costs quite a bit, but it is like deterministic craft anyways. I just recombinated Vile Robes until I had tier 1% energy and tier 1 flat energy, and then you used your Perfect Essence of Ruin to give your physical Taken as Chaos, which, combined with our other physical Taken as, means that pretty much 30% of all physical damage is just gone, which is really good. That's like as good as having 10,000, 20,000 armor against a lot of the big one-shot hits, because 10, 20,000 armor gets depreciated because you're taking such a big hit that it does actually not that much. So this is kind of just the best of all worlds in terms of defenses. We have the best of mana stacking for health. Like I don't even have good mana reset. The best of energy shield with chaos inoculation. The best of like mana stacking and mind over matter. The best of taking damage as other types and physical mitigation. And it's the best of elemental mitigation because you have adaptations, which is giving you some less elemental damage taken. And then if you take multiple hits, it stacks crazy high. Like you get, I think it might be multiplicative, so it might only be actually like 50% less damage taken if it's like 3 of the same. But still, that's crazy amount of elemental mitigation. And if you have self-damage, which is like I think the pinnacle form of this build, you just always have adaptations on. And you're chaos immune. And I have a Fallen, which gives me like 75% block chance. So it's just, the defenses are absolutely out of this world, and you're actually not sacrificing on pretty much any of your damage to get all of these defenses. Yeah, that's pretty much the full story. The only downside, I would say, to this build is that it doesn't have the nicest clear. Because your biggest damaging skill, Apocalypse, it kind of, as you're running, you'll see this in the demo, it kind of trails behind you a little bit. Which means you either have to be running kind of through enemies, which is another reason to like build this as defense heavy as I have. So like you can actually just run through enemies and not worry about being swarmed and actually just killed instantly for like being surrounded by 5 guys. But that also means that like you're not like clearing the entire screen. There's like spotty bits where like your Apocalypse will just randomly miss one guy in the corner and he's just kind of sitting there shooting you, or maybe it's a rare and it's like kill the rare and it's like blowing up all these like trash mobs around you and you're like please target that thing. So it can be a little bit annoying with the clear. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not as nice as like some of the whole like screen wide blow everything up builds that are out there. But it's totally serviceable. It just doesn't quite have that edge of really good clear speed. But it makes up for that with crazy damage, crazy defenses. Okay, so this is doing a tier 16 level 82 zone with negative rarity. I've swapped in, I now have 2 reduced rarity Venter's Gambles. And to do this, you need a tier 16 map, you need the +1 level area modifier, and you need a precursor tablet, or if you have the boss thing that gives you a plus level, you need a boss tablet. That would also work. And I'm running Ritual. It's probably better with Breach, but I've been experimenting with doing Ritual. You can kind of, gives a lot of extra monsters, which can drop things, and then also you can just buy things from the shop that are level 82. So I've been kind of experimenting with that just to see if that does anything, but let's give it a shot. Okay. Man-pocalypse. Oh god. That guy did mega damage. Okay. I was surprised I have not taken that much damage in days. And I did kind of just run into it. Set up all this shit on the ground. Walk the hill. Just my luck. Oh, I didn't even see it. It spawned directly on top of it. Oh my god, this is up. Twice.
Nature takes what's old.
There's a lot of just you waiting around for that meteor to actually hit the one guy. Okay, we kill him anyway. You guys really hurt. Actually doing what is this nonsense? spiritual is not that good. Okay, got some lucky ones. Oh, this is the way forward, actually. Okay. Missed the little side area.
I'm full off. I'll take it.
Strong blocks. Oh,
That's heavy enough already. Cannot carry anymore.
Pick up all this shit. Why are they stop coming? Hey, hello.
Darkness descends, and with it,
Yeah, 10 seconds of progress left.
Storm and flame.
Back up. Sorry.
The mists. Cannot carry anymore.
Okie dokie. No, let's go. Hello, coming at you from the future with an update to the build. Shortly after the previous recording, I had a large windfall of money just due to things selling in my shop, some lucky lineage drops, and the such. And so I had finally enough currency to actually sort of work out what the end game pinnacle version of this build would look like. To that end, here we go. What we've done is we have added in a soul tether. This is the new modified version from the Vol cultivation orb, where it has removed the energy shield loss per second, and it has instead given us life regeneration applied to energy shield instead. Now, the reason why this is so good and is better than, say, Zealot's Oath, well, for one, Zealot's Oath turns off energy shield recharge. This does not do that. We still have our energy shield recharge. But Zealot's Oath applies excess life recovery from regeneration to your energy shield, which means if you have any percentage-based effects, it would take the percentage of your life, and then that would then apply to your energy shield as long as your life is full, and we're Chaos Inoculation, so we're always full, but we're Chaos Inoculation, so our life is 1. So percentage of 1 is like nothing. But you use a Soul Tether, suddenly percentage life regeneration becomes crazy because you have so much energy shield and it applies to energy shield. Which means we can swap out our spirit reservation support gems. I was running clarity and mysticism just because I had some extra spirit left over, and instead we can use vitality, which is just straight off the bat 2% of your maximum life. Now energy shield regenerating per second, so that's 200 regen per second. we can use a double-socketed exceptional boots. I didn't hit the corrupt for 3 sockets on this one, but it's still really, really good. These are mini divines. I crafted this one myself, but what we're doing is when we're socketing in, percent regen runes. So this is another 1% of our max energy shield, which is then another 100 regen per second. You could do the same thing with your gloves, and both of these are actually, I said 100, but they're scaled by 60% increased effect because of the mod, and that gives you another, so these are total like 160, 170 energy shield, and then if you have the third socket, it's even more. It's crazy. So I don't even have I'm working on the gloves right now. I don't even have that up right now, but I have a double socketed one. I still need 1 fire rune just to fix my resistance problems, but otherwise that's also regen. For the body and the other sockets, I think it is better to just leave them in their defenses. You want these to be very high energy shield so that you can have a large pool, and you want block on your Fallen. But in total, that gives us, right now, I'm rocking about 400 regen per second, which is pretty much enough to just negate all chip damage, which is a great quality of life because you're constantly taking a little bit of chip damage, even though you're blocking with Fallen, you're taking little bits here and there. So you can just run straight into packs now. You're pretty much immortal in many circumstances. Obviously, there are still things that will get through to you, but even when they do get through to you, I'm like, oh man, I took 1/4 of my life instead of almost nothing. And I could just back off and regen energy shields. So, the other benefit of negating chip damage is we can start self-damaging ourselves to trigger our adaptations. So our adaptations give us elemental damage reduction every time we take elemental damage from a hit, but because we've taken this node, they only last 5 seconds, so particularly in like a boss fight, they'll fall off you, you won't have them on all the time. So they're not that reliable, but if we have Scald's Bridle, this gives us 40% of mana costs I pay for skills is then taken as a physical hit. It doesn't say this is a physical hit, but this is a physical hit damage, so it does get then converted, and all your mitigation applies to it. So armor will mitigate this. All your resistances will then mitigate the thing that gets converted. So this will cause us to actually take elemental damage. So if you see here, I cast a lightning storm, I get a little fire adaptation, and I could just keep doing this. This one's a little mana hungry, but you could proceed in an arbiter fight. I get maybe a bit more mana regen, or if I'm just constantly spamming pots because I know the one shot's coming in, I can have this up. And I'm pretty sure this is enough to tank arbiter. I haven't tested it because I'm in hardcore, but I probably will at some point, either intentionally or accidentally, just by fighting arbiter. So there's a little bit of finickiness with this because you get to mitigate all of this damage. If you do mitigate it down too low, you actually won't get an adaptation. So for example, my Thunderstorm has 267 mana. That's enough where even when I mitigate it, I still take a little bit of damage from the fire. And with my other skill here, Ball Lightning, that's not enough mana to actually do enough damage. I am actually taking a hit. You can see my shield moving. But so much of the elemental damage that is only a tiny portion of that hit is then getting mitigated even further, that it's just doing, I think less than 1 is probably the threshold where it's actually cutting it off. So you need to have enough mana on your skills. You kind of have to little fiddle with them so that they will actually hit you and give you your adaptations. You can kind of just test it out in town. To facilitate this, you're going to want to take, in addition to your Avatar of Evolution, I have pathed over and gotten Molten Beam now to give us physical damage taken as fire. That is also why every time I hit myself, I get a fire adaptation, because that is the highest damage of a physical hit once it gets converted. If you want a balanced set where you just get a random adaptation every time, you can anoint Catalysis, but this is super expensive. It's isolation, isolation, isolation. Actually, I don't know how expensive isolation is, but I'm kind of prepping to try and do Arbiter, so I didn't really care about going for that route. You can do that. That will also work as well. You can also do it in addition to this one, just to get even more physical converted and be even tankier against physical damage, but then it will still be random. I'm not quite sure what it does. I think when it's even, it will be random, so you'll kind of get random ones, maybe a little bit favored towards fire. So that's the main improvements to the build. The other thing that we're rocking, I got lucky and I actually dropped my own, so I didn't have to buy this, Rakiata's Flow. So we have swapped in a Rakiata's Flow. We've also, to manage the mana costs, we want them to be pretty low, but not too low. I've been tinkering with Zenith. This also gives us more damage as long as we don't spam our abilities too much. And that's easier to do now since we have a Rakiata's Flow and we no longer have to be casting Frostbomb or Elemental Weakness, which are two big kind of mana sinks for the build. And we don't really even need to be casting Ball Lightning or Lightning Warp, so you kind of just have Thunderstorm, your Apocalypse is running, and then you just kind of chill in the boss room. If it's elemental damage that's scary, maybe you keep spamming this so you get your adaptations. So there's some balancing there of like how much defense you want. There's are you use bursting them using your bonus damage from Zenith, and if you're doing Arbiter, maybe you swap these out. You can also swap in, I don't think I have any, but you can do efficiency as well for even more mana reduction, but a lot of mine actually, I needed the extra mana to actually cause the skills to trigger, and you can see even with Ball Lightning, I probably should remove Zenith. I think I got a little bit of extra defenses and it pushed me over the threshold where it no longer ticks my adaptation from hitting. So yeah, that's pretty much the updates to the build. Otherwise, just general improvements, better rings, better gear in general. Actually, the gloves and the amulet I think are the same. And yeah, I'll post an update to this as well in the planner. So you can see, oh yeah, the last thing I did change, that was it. I did change, I swapped to Magma Barrier because when I'm pathing this way for Molten Being, I can get more block and importantly maximum block, so I can actually utilize all of the block chance you're getting from Magma Barrier. This is particularly nice if you don't want to worry about active blocking as much, so now my block chance is super duper high. But if you're okay with active blocking, there's no point in taking, if you like that kind of playstyle, you go in, you active block, it gives you something to do. There's no reason to use that Magma Barrier over the Barkskin, what's called, the one that gives you armor. I think they're both good options. I like this one a bit better because it's a bit more brain dead AFK mode. Just lets me kind of mindlessly walk through mobs. Speaking of which, I'll end it out with a quick clip of me doing just that. Nice doing rituals. The bird in the corner. I have one skeleton. Very nice.